Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America. Of course, I'm Jack Fairchilds. Chris is out tonight. And let me tell you where he is this evening, because he is speaking in Oxford, Mississippi before the Oxford chapter of the Conservative Coalition of Mississippi. That event is tonight at 6:30 at the Chancery Building on 300 North Lamar there in Oxford. So again, if you're one of our viewers watching this here on Thursday while we're recording it live and you're in Oxford or close to Oxford, you can go up there and hear Chris speak. I think we're going to have to get used to sharing Chris with the circuit again, because I think he's back out giving speeches. And quite frankly, I'm happy for it, because I think our state and other states need more of his type of conservative talk. So wish Chris the best of luck. And if you're in the area or close enough to drive up there, be sure to go check that out tonight. But I'm not alone. I am joined by my good friend, Jim Cegielski. Jim, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it. Hey, I just want to say I'm proud of Chris for doing some Turning Point events. I think that's pretty awesome of him to be doing that. And I know you kind of take a risk when you're doing a Turning Point event. And so Chris has my kudos for being brave and being brave enough to go in there and talk the truth to young college students. Absolutely.
You know, and on the last episode that we recorded on Sunday, Chris actually said that he's planning on doing another one in Hattiesburg in the spring when the weather might be a little bit better. But he also said that they've not ruled out the possibility of him going to Starkville and doing one at Mississippi State, possibility of him going to Oxford and doing one at Ole Miss. So I do think that, and knowing Chris and having done a show with him so long, I think that he is the perfect person to fill in for the late Charlie Kirk.
He really is.
I mean, you've seen him do it. You remember the early episodes of The Right Side when Chris was the main host. When a liberal would call in, Chris was never mean to him. He was always kind, and they had a conversation. And a lot of times, Jim, the liberal would at least, even if Chris didn't flip him, he'd at least be able to concede that Chris had a point in some of the talking points he brought up. And that always impressed me, because I get angry at him, and it's harder for me to sell. I would be terrible doing a Charlie Kirk style Turning Point event. What about you? Do you think you could pull that off?
Not as well as Chris, that's for sure. I do think we should maybe seriously think about taking Chris McDaniel's America on the road.
It could be
two
fun.
College campuses. And I mean, if Turning Point doesn't work out for Chris, I think maybe that's a route we should take, because I agree there's no one better to reach young people than Chris McDaniel, because Chris McDaniel can talk conservative politics better than anyone I've ever been around. So
yeah, I agree.
He would be awesome.
You know, we're going to do something a little different for this show. Now, not too different, because if you've watched some of our last couple of shows, Chris has had me come up with some questions and just kind of ask him different things, you know, and it's been a lot of fun. And since Jim hadn't been on the show in forever, my idea was, let's kind of flip it around. Let's put Jim in that seat, and I'm going to kind of not necessarily interview, because, you know, these are questions on current events, but in essence, it's going to be an interview type show, and Jim's going to share, and I'll piggyback off of some of the things that he talks about. So yeah, Jim, I know. Thank you again for being able to come in, and also for agreeing to kind of get thrown to the wolves and answer questions.
Well, and there's one, I think the difference between Chris McDaniel and myself is Chris is a pure conservative. I mean, if you look up the definition of conservative in the dictionary, you're going to see a picture of Chris McDaniel. I'm more MAGA. I'm America First. So I have a bit of, I mean, Chris and I probably agree on 90% of everything. But I am a Trumper, a MAGA supporter, America First guy. So I'm not a pure conservative like Chris is, so I might bring a little bit different perspective.
Yeah. And we welcome that for sure, because you and I have had, I wouldn't say disagreements. We've had areas where we weren't 100% on the same page, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We need to be able to have those types
Absolutely.
of
And that, you know, even Charlie Kirk, when he was out there doing the Turning Point things, the people that agreed with Charlie were great, but the fact that Charlie could talk to anybody about anything, and there's different perspectives even in conservatism, that need to get out there. It doesn't mean we're on different sides. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, Jack, but there's a lot of infighting between conservatives right now. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly. They're all kind of going at it. And my column this week in the leader call is about, it's one thing to have disagreements, but it's another thing that we remain solidified to the main purpose that we all have, and that is saving America from the radical left wing that's trying to take over the country.
I 100% agree with that, because we've got some forces out there, not just the Bush family, that are trying to take over things. We're going to get to that in a second. But Jim, I'm going to start off, my Q&A with you. The biggest story right now, I think, is the fact that both the House and the Senate voted to release the Epstein files.
And you want to know if I'm on the Epstein list? I know that,
absolutely.
Jack.
I'm curious if you're on the list.
And I don't think I am. We'll see.
That's not a definitive no. That's not a definitive no.
Well, I think you're going to be surprised at how many people are on the Epstein list, but or at least the Epstein files. But what we're going to have to figure out is who committed crimes, because Trump's in the Epstein file. But I don't believe for a second he committed a crime. Jeffrey Epstein was all over the place trying to, spread influence or gain influence with every powerful person there is. We all know for a fact that if President Trump had committed a crime and there was evidence of it, the James Comey, the Christopher Wray, the Hillary Clinton, Obama, and Biden administration, you can put them all together as one big conglomerate, would have released that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely, they would.
And that would be out there already. So I think he's the one person that we know there is no evidence of him committing any crime with Jeffrey Epstein. I think the Democrats are in a different position on this. I think there's a lot of Democrats that have exposed themselves on this. And, isn't it funny, Jack, that, Biden and Obama could have released Epstein files at any time, and there was never a clamor for it. The clamor started when Democrats realized that Trump was having win after win after win, and they had to get the focus off of all the good things that Trump was doing. Mm-hmm. And so they started on this Epstein file release thing. It's going to come back to bite them in the butt.
I believe that as well. Were you surprised when the when the House passed it overwhelmingly? They only had one person who voted against the release. And then, of course, I fully expected the Senate to be wishy-washy, try to add an amendment, hang this thing up. But no, they passed it right away as well. Did that surprise you a little bit?
Well, it didn't, because Trump turned on a dime. And I think it's obvious why Trump turned on this. Because the Democrats started releasing his name on emails and other stuff.
Emails that we had seen a while back.
They were leaking it anyway. So Trump's like, if you're going to leak my name out there, let's just release everything, because I didn't do anything wrong. That's how I feel Trump is feeling right now. And so as soon as he said release him, then Republicans jumped on that bandwagon. So I wasn't surprised in the end, where there was only one congressperson who voted against the release. But I think the Democrats are going to be really sorry about what they released upon society here, because I think almost every name that's going to come out of here is going to be a Democrat.
I hope you're right.
Jeffrey Epstein was a Democrat. He supported a lot of these people, both campaign-wise and unfortunately flying them to his island to do whatever in God's name was happening out there, and we know it wasn't good.
I'm hoping that we'll see some prosecutions of people that were in wrongdoing, because again, I want to see justice for these victims, and if there were politicians, and we know there were, we've actually seen some photos of some of the very Democrats that you're alluding to. If there was actual laws broken, these victims they're owed justice. And if their names are right there and that they were complicit, in what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, then guess what? I don't care if you're a sitting congressman. I don't care if you're a sitting senator. I don't care if you're a former president. I want to see the prosecution.
I'm 100% with you, Jack. Unfortunately, I doubt there's going to be any evidence that's still around that hasn't been destroyed that would result in somebody being prosecuted. It would almost have to be video evidence, because you really couldn't take Jeffrey Epstein's word that somebody did something. He's not even around to cross-examine, so that's not going to happen. I don't know that Ghislaine Maxwell is a good enough credible witness at this point to take her word for it, even though she's probably telling the truth. But she's a convicted criminal, a sex trafficker. So I don't know that anybody's going to get prosecuted unless there's some video evidence out there of what they did. And I'd be willing to bet that the FBI under James Comey destroyed anything they had on, say, Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. You talked about how Democrats are going to regret it. I think some already are, because you saw it's already come out. Hakeem Jeffries, even after Epstein was convicted, his team reached out to try to get help to raise money. Yeah. So again, we're already starting. And wasn't Hakeem Jeffries one of the ones that was calling for the release when they thought it was a smoking gun against Donald Trump? And yet here we are finding out that his hands weren't clean.
I think the Democrats are like the cat that caught his own tail. I don't think they thought that Trump would actually release these files. So, of course, it's not up to Trump, really. It's going to be the DOJ and some judges and stuff like that for these to really come out. But I think they're a little shocked at how this turned on them. And Jeffries is the first one really to take a little bit of a beating here, because, I say he's the first one. Honestly, that Plaskin woman from the Virgin Islands, who was, and this is so disgusting, and this is where we need to slam Republicans. This Plaskin woman from the Virgin Islands was taking texts from Jeffrey Epstein during the hearing for Trump's attorney. And this was after Jeffrey Epstein was already convicted pedophile. And she was about to be slammed in Congress, and Republicans cut a deal to give her a break. And it really, those 6 congressmen who did that, we need to vote them out of office. Yeah. Republicans are just as bad as Democrats on a lot of issues, and this is corruption at its worst. They made a deal to save another corrupt Republican congressman. We shouldn't be saving any corrupt politicians. It doesn't matter what letters next to their name.
Look, I don't think that it's going to be or it's not going to shock me when they release names of people who were associates of Jeffrey Epstein, that we're going to find out there were several Republicans as well, because I don't think even though he might have aligned more with the Democrats, Jeffrey Epstein was about trying to gain access to power.
Well,
therefore he played both of them.
And I'm with you, Jack. If there is Republicans, I want to know their name. Yeah. I want to get them out of office. Even if we can't convict them, I hope we can. But even if we can't, at least we need to disgrace them and get them out of office. But this is one of the most disgusting political disgraces in our nation's history. And I'm glad I'm glad we're getting to the bottom of it, but I'm not sure we actually are getting to the bottom of it yet. I'm going to have to wait to see if evidence actually comes out. Yeah. Because we don't know what's been destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly kind of the point I took last night on the right side when I was recording that episode, is that we're all hoping for this magical list. We joked about Jim being on the list or not, but I don't think there's an actual list. Now, there are flight logs. There are things that they can compile to make a list, but I don't think there's an actual list. Maybe there was at one point, but I think that's one of the things that has been destroyed, because we've been told there's not an actual list.
And I think there's emails. Obviously, there's emails, because we've seen a couple of them at least. But like I said, the problem with that is even if Jeffrey Epstein in an email said that a certain politician did something, I don't think we can convict anybody from that. We can condemn them, but I don't think we can convict anybody.
That's fair point. What did you make of the Louisiana congressman, the one no vote from the House? his reasoning, something about he wanted to protect victims' names and it just didn't make any sense to me. And the fact that he decided to be the lone person standing on an island, I really question if his district should vote for him again. What did you make of him making that decision?
I'm with you, actually. I think you're trying to make a name for yourself, because he almost had to know he was going to be the only one who voted against this. And at that point, why are you doing it? It's kind of like, listen, I know there's a lot of conservative supporters of Massey out there. But at this point here, if you're the only one voting against something, you want to try to make a stand, go ahead and do it, but you're not helping anybody. You're just making a name for yourself.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And it didn't work in this case, because I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either, actually. I thought he was so meaningless, I didn't even pay much attention to him.
I thought that was funny, because I said his name on the right side that I recorded last night, and here we are less than 24 hours later. I can't remember his name. So good job making a name for yourself. Well, the next thing, it was reported on Breitbart that the Bush family is plotting a comeback in an attempt to retake the GOP. They, again, as we know, the Bush family had pretty much control of the GOP for a long time, pretty much since Reagan left office. And people forget that Bush was not a Reagan disciple. He was a moderate he was a compromise in 1980 to avoid any splinter at the convention.
You're talking about Bush number one.
I am talking about King George the First. Yes. And his whole ability to become president was because people viewed him as an extension of the Reagan years. When he got in, he was not an extension of the Reagan
Bush Sr. was a deep state operative. I don't know that many people realize that, but he was a CIA, definitely deep state guy. I don't know why. I forget why Reagan picked him as his VP.
It was a compromise because they were worried about a broken convention. And at least that's my understanding, is that they were trying to avoid a split going into the convention. And it was, you take our guy on with you and it'll help. At least that's my understanding. That's why it happened the way that it did. He was a compromise. He was never the guy that Reagan wanted to ride with.
Yeah, he was a bad compromise. And it's too bad that Reagan wasn't around to learn from what Trump did in his second term. Just go with the best guy like he did with J.D. Vance here. But because that was a historical thing. Like almost every president since I've been alive has basically compromised on their VP pick to try to get votes in a certain state or something like that. But I think the better way to go is pick the very brightest and best person you can. And for the first time since I've been alive, I think that's actually happened this time. It didn't happen the first Trump term, but it has happened the second Trump term. And I think that's going to pay off in the long run. But back to the Bushes, George Bush the first made a mistake with his no new taxes, read my lips thing. And that led to Bill Clinton. Which, honest to God, I'm okay with Bill Clinton. I was okay with the Bill Clinton presidency. The George W. Bush presidency that followed is really the downfall of the Republican Party as far as I'm concerned. I'll be honest with you. I supported him. I voted for him twice. But in hindsight and looking back, if you're an honest broker, we all have to admit that the George W. Bush presidency was one of the worst in American history.
Yeah.
It not only led our nation into trillions of dollars of debt, we fought a war where I don't know how many thousands of people lost their lives. It was a meaningless war. They sold us on weapons of mass destruction that weren't there. We took out a dictator, sure, but that was a dictator that was actually against the real problem in the Middle East, which was Iran. We got nothing out of that war except trillions of dollars in debt and thousands of lives lost. was one of the worst decisions in American history, worse than Vietnam. And I don't know why people would even still defend the Bushes at this point. They should be disgraced, because the worst thing that happened out of that is it led to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I mean, it directly led to Barack Obama, because George Bush put all of our assets into foreign wars instead of helping the American people. If he would have been American first, we never would have had Barack Obama.
And the biggest problem with Bush, I think, was his VP, Dick Cheney. A lot of people believe Cheney was calling most of the shots during that presidency. They point to the fact they just didn't think W was that bright, and that Cheney was there to watch over him. Now, that's all speculation, but it's believable, because Dick Cheney, as much as we may not like him, he was somebody that was a bright guy. Wrong, but bright.
I honestly believe Dick Cheney probably did influence George W. Bush to enter the Iraq War. He was a neocon and
a part of that wartime industrial machine.
Yeah, absolutely. You wonder if that war all along was only about supporting the military industrial complex. And that, at least then, there's a reason, because otherwise there was no reason. They used the war on terrorism as an excuse to go into Iraq. Well, that's not where the terrorists were.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with terrorism. And, George W. Bush, I can go on and on about how bad a president he was, but he's the reason we lost a lot of our rights. The Patriot Act is a horrible thing that it needs to be repealed, but it never will be repealed. The fact that we have to go through the airport and basically get molested by TSA agents every time we go through there, that's the result of George W. Bush. I'll tell you right now, I don't know about you, I'll take my chances with a terrorist entering the plane rather than have to wait in line for hours to go through the line at the airport.
You got to get there an hour before your flight. Well, 2 hours before your flight.
At least.
Because it's going to take you about an hour to go through TSA, depending on where you're flying. If you're in a smaller airport, yeah, sure, you can probably get through it. Like Jackson Airport here in Mississippi, you can get through security fairly quickly there. But if you go somewhere like Chicago or New York, if you're not at that airport a good 2 hours ahead of time, you might miss your flight, because that is a massive line.
And think about it, Jack. Somebody pulls out a box cutter right now on an airplane. There's going to be 50 guys jumping on top of him so fast.
Yeah.
They need to do away with all of it. Go back to pre 9/11 rules, and we would be a much better country. They gave the CIA and the FBI way too much power. It has led to the weaponization of our of the deep state and our agencies that they've proven they've gone after our president now. And I'm not convinced that they didn't try to assassinate this most recent president.
And Chris has a rule, we staying away from conspiracies, but I know where you're going, and there are still questions about that shooter. Definitely questions about that shooter.
Yeah, I think This makes me worried a little bit about our current FBI, that we had to learn this week from Tucker Carlson that this shooter, Thomas Crooks, who put a bullet in the president's ear, had become radicalized left-winger. They told us that there was no footprint, no social media footprint. Well, it turns out there was all kinds of social media posts by this dude, and we never learned about it.
Yeah.
They tried to sell us that he was a Trump supporter, and he was in his early 16, 17-year-olds, but he had been radicalized as a left winger. And we just learned that this past week.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And we only learned it because Tucker did his own investigation and found it. So,
and now more and more stuff's coming out about Thomas Crooks. I mean, the New York Post had a big, unleash some more information about him. So hopefully this is the start of actually uncovering what really went on there, but I don't think he acted alone.
It seems very unlikely that he'd be able to get to where he got unseen, be able to set up without somebody's help.
Well, there's the last picture of him out before he got on that roof. He was on the phone. we still haven't learned who the heck was he talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, back to the Bushes, they're plotting this. They want to control who the next presidential nominee from the Republican Party is. I think you and I already know who should be the front runner in 2028, and that's definitely J.D. Vance, because we see that he's a ready for primetime player just based on things. He ran the Turning Point event in Oxford a few weeks ago.
Who are the Bushes planning on putting up as their?
It didn't say. It just said that they are wanting to get back in control and have it be their nominee. Enough of that. We've seen what Bush nominees look like. It's a John McCain. It's a Mitt Romney.
It's a joke. I mean, there's no way that the MAGA people would ever support a Bush or even a Bush-backed candidate. There's no way that's ever going to happen. And MAGA at this point controls the Republican Party. I don't know if most conservatives are happy about it or indifferent to it. But the truth of the matter is MAGA controls the Republican Party to such a degree, and that's not going to change in the next presidential cycle for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I tend to believe that too.
There was also another story that came out that Ted Cruz was going to run for the presidency. And the story, I forget who reported it, it was actually that some of the Republicans are hoping to lose the midterms to give Ted Cruz a chance. And I hope that's not true. I wasn't a big fan of Ted Cruz's, but I had grown kind of fond of him because he seemed to have had smartened up since the first Trump term. And I hope this isn't true, because what Republicans need to realize is if we lose the midterms, we lose this country. There's no coming back from it. And I hope there's no one that wants to put their self-interest in the Republican Party ahead of the interest of the country.
That's actually one of the questions I have, is the fact that next year will be midterm elections. Historically, the party not in power they make gains. Even if they don't take back control, they make gains. That's just been the way it's been historically in this country for whatever reason. Do you think that's going to be the case again, where the Democrats will make gains? And again, following, and we'll get into the shutdown here in a second. How do they make gains right now when they've got black eye after black eye?
Well, I'm sure you were too. I was really disappointed in the results in New Jersey and Virginia.
I was disappointed, but I wasn't shocked.
I wasn't shocked by the outcome. I was shocked by the margin. I thought the Citarelli guy in New Jersey would be a lot closer in that race. And I think what it's come down to, and Trump realizes it because he's talking a lot more about it, is just the price of groceries. I mean, the price of groceries is still outrageous. Mm-hmm. People are having a hard time affording to put food on their table. Yeah. He's gotten the price of gas down a little bit, but it still has to get down a lot lower. But the average everyday person is really still struggling. And I hate to say this about Americans, but we are impatient people. We are very impatient. It is hard to turn an economy around in 10 months. I mean, we had the highest inflation in history under Joe Biden. Trump has got that down tremendously, but to actually lower prices is a really hard thing to do. I think he's on to it. I think it will happen, but you have to give him longer than a year to get this done. And we're impatient. I think that was part of the reason that the margins were so bad in Virginia and New Jersey. But I think Trump realizes he has to put his foot on the gas pedal now to make sure these prices come down before midterms, because I think he realizes that the economy is going to decide who controls Congress.
Mm-hmm. When we're talking about the midterms, or not the midterms, but the elections from a couple of weeks ago, to me, the Democrats quickly were saying, oh, look, blue wave. It wasn't. No. If you look at those areas, they went with the exception of Virginia, they were extremely blue to begin with. Virginia is kind of a purple state. It'll fluctuate, but everything I had read going into it, it was the result I expected. I was not surprised by anything that happened that Wednesday. I think that's part of the reason why it didn't get me down in the slightest, was that Tuesday night, that following Wednesday, when we all saw the final results. It did not really affect me, because to me, I'm laughing at the mainstream media trying to tell us that, oh, look, this is a blue wave, when I know you just won the areas you were supposed to win.
Right. And that is true. I think what happened to me was some of the polls that usually are on the nose, like the more conservative polls, which have been a lot better at predicting election outcomes, really had those races a lot closer than that it ended up being. And so I was relying on some of those polls that actually have been pretty accurate in the past.
Gotcha. Well, I think we're coming up against a break right here. So let's pause and hear from our sponsors. This is Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network.
Resort.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chris McDaniel's America. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm Jack Fairchild. Chris is in Oxford. He's going to be speaking tonight to the Conservative Coalition Oxford chapter up there. So again, check him out if you're in the area. I think it's at 6:30. So be sure to check out Chris up there. It's exciting to have him back on the political circuit, talking to groups again. So unfortunately, because of other scheduling issues, Thursday was our day. But did bring back in Jim Cegielski along with me, and we're doing it a little different, where I'm asking Jim a couple of questions about current events, and we're just kind of having conversations about these. And I think, Jim, when we let down, we were talking about the elections from a couple of weeks ago. But in the midterms, Jim, do you believe the Democrats are going to keep up the historical tradition and pick up ground next year?
I really do. Back to what I was saying, I really do believe that it's going to depend on the economy turning around. And the economy is doing well. If you're in the stock market, you are killing it right now. Mm-hmm. People with 401k money, they're hog heaven, doing well. It's the everyday worker, blue collar worker that goes to work and lives paycheck to paycheck that's struggling. If prices can come down, I think Republicans can hold. And if they don't, I think the Democrats probably will take back Congress. And of course, you know what that means. That means impeachment. Because Democrats are insane.
Well, the fact that this whole, and I want to get away from, even next time we elect a Democrat, I want to get away from impeachment being the first thing you go to every time.
They're already talking about it.
Yeah, I know they are. But it's their only card. And again, that should be for extreme issues where you can tell the president is not upholding his oath. They've moved away from that and turned it into this gotcha moment. That's all they want. It's frustrating, and it's something that we desperately need to get away from. Both parties,
Yeah, but it's, listen, the Republicans have a lot of problems. One thing the Republicans have never done is just become an opposition party.
Yeah.
And that's what the Democrats have done. I think you were going to ask me about the shutdown. And the only reason that shutdown happened was because they had nothing else to do. They wanted to disrupt, just like they did the first term of Trump. They just wanted to disrupt his presidency and stop him from having win after win. So they went into this stupid government shutdown. which accomplished nothing.
Yeah.
Accomplished that. All it did was make the life of our military people miserable and make the life of some poor people on welfare miserable. Other than that, what did it accomplish?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. But they wanted to try to make Trump look bad. They are willing, if that didn't tell Americans in general, they are willing to sacrifice America in order to get Trump. That's how evil these people are.
Did you think that there was an actual winner in the shutdown battle? I know ultimately Republicans won in the sense that they didn't cave and give the Democrats what they wanted. But by that same token, all they did was extend the Biden era economy. So it wasn't like this is a massive, hey, Republicans should poke their chest out moment. Now, it was different from what we normally got, which was Republicans caving and giving the Democrats exactly what they wanted. So that's a plus. But at the end of the day, I look back at this and I'm like, is that something we should really be excited as a victory? Maybe it is because of how low the bar is for Republicans, but what's your take on that?
My take is this, Jack. If we had an honest media, it would have been a huge win for Republicans. But the media won't tell the American public the truth. Mm-hmm. The truth of that matter was, and the media should have told America this, is the Democrats are holding the country hostage for no reason. Yeah. And if that was put out there by our media, it would have been a huge win by the Republicans because the Republicans voted 13 times to open up the government, whereas the Democrats kept voting against it. And unfortunately, I honestly do. I think the media might be a bigger problem than the Democrat Party at this point, because let's face it, if the media told people the truth, we wouldn't have this problem in the Democrat Party. They wouldn't have gotten away with it. None of these crazy radicals, people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, they wouldn't have any power if we had an honest media. I go back to, I think if there's really an evil empire in this country, it is our mainstream media.
I agree with you. And you brought up some of the crazy radicals and creations from the mainstream media. I think one perfect example is the new mayor of New York City, that Zoran Mandini. The guy is an admitted socialist. He's really a communist. If you look at the things he's promising, the things that they are wanting to push, if you want to see a perfect breakdown of it, go back and watch last week's episode of Chris McDaniel's America. Chris explains that perfectly on there. And I think that if you haven't watched last week's episode, go back to it as soon as you get done with this one, though, of course. Jim, what did you make of New York? I mean, I know we expected it to happen, but the fact that it actually happened, they elected a socialist communist. What do you make of that? And how fast is New York's going to collapse under his leadership?
First of all, it's scary. I mean, my daughter lives in New York City, so it is scary to think that I don't call him a socialist. I call him a communist because that's exactly what he is. And he's not just a communist. He's a radical Muslim communist. And for the city that suffered through 9/11 the most, to elect a radical Muslim communist is not just scary. It is frightening to the point where every single American has to worry that this is going to spread, and it is spreading. Yeah. There's other cities who are electing their own socialist mayors right now. And if we let this take hold, we will lose our country before you know it. I know that people think, New York's just going to collapse. The Democrats are going to have to pay for it, and we'll win more elections because of it. I'm not so sure. What frightens me is the fact that if we lose every city to socialism, and then all the Republicans or the conservatives are out in the rural areas, we don't have much of a country if we don't have many cities left. And we have to stop it now. And again, I go back to the media. If the media would tell you the truth about socialism, there's not a single instant where it has ever worked. It has led to poverty, disease, suffering, drug running. It's evil to its core. It sounds nice. It's utopian. Everybody's going to get taken care of, but it's not how the world works. But I didn't see anybody call out Madami on the fact that there was no way he could pay for these programs he was promising. No one called him out to his face that, hey, all you're going to do is chase away the capitalists, the people who support the city. New York City was built on finance. It was the world's capital for capitalism. Mm-hmm. And, Wall Street's there. For this to happen to New York City is a national disgrace for all of us. It's not just New York City that's going to suffer. And it is very frightening. And I hope this meeting with Trump that's supposed to take place tomorrow, I hope Trump dresses him down, doesn't kowtow to him, play nice with him, because he doesn't deserve it. He's a snake. He's a liar. And he has no experience at what he's doing. He's an actor, and he's playing with people's lives.
I was going to ask you next about his meeting with Trump. Do you think there's any possibility that Trump can reach him? Because Trump's already said that he's not going to send a dime to aid New York with this guy's policies. Do you think there's going to be a part in that conversation to where maybe Trump can reach him and make the guy understand you cannot be a communist in a major U.S. city and expect things to go well for you?
I hate to say it, but I don't believe that. I mean, he's from the AOC Bernie Sanders camp, but he's more of an extremist than them. So I don't think Trump can reach him. I mean, first of all, I wouldn't believe a word the man says. So no, I don't think this meeting is going to go well, and I hope it doesn't go well, because if it goes well, it means Trump is trying to placate a man that doesn't deserve to be placated. He deserves to be condemned every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if he does that, I know it'll be one of those things where you will lose some respect, because we've seen Trump stand strong. Go back to the first meeting with Zelensky. Trump and J.D. Vance pretty much gave him the business and made sure he knew he wasn't going to come into their White House and demand anything. That's the type of Trump that we need to see in this meeting.
Absolutely. And I think Trump will stay strong. I mean, obviously Trump has condemned him numerous times. And I understand why you should take the meeting with the mayor of New York. However, I really think Trump needs to sit him down like a child and lecture him, because he's either not very bright, but I think he is, unfortunately, or he's a snake waiting to bite us. And this is happening across the country. You take a look at what's going on with Dearborn, Michigan, and they have completely taken away the culture of that entire city there. It's become a Muslim city. And
look at France.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other example. But you look at London. Yeah. London has a Muslim mayor, and it doesn't. I was in London when I was in college. That place doesn't resemble anything like it did back then. They've lost their entire culture, and quite honestly, England's losing its entire nation, as is most of Western Europe, and that should be a wake up call for us. We can go to that path if we want to, and we're on it. If we let the radical Democrat Party take over, that's the path we're going to go down, and it'll be a very sad future for our kids and grandchildren.
You know what's scary is, if you go back through history again, Europe a lot of times has been the foreshadowing of what the United States is going to do next, and that's the scary thing, because we've seen it. We've seen it play out that way over history, and it's one of those things I'm definitely concerned with. Now, this next one, Jim, I should have flipped it around and asked you about it when we were talking about the Bushes, because big news was made that Trump and J.D. Vance were both not invited to Dick Cheney's funeral. Me personally, if I had been, I don't think I would have gone if I were either one of them. Again, thoughts and prayers to the Cheney family, but I don't necessarily view Dick Cheney in a positive light. I don't think you view Dick Cheney in a positive light. And I definitely know that Trump must not have viewed him we know he didn't view his daughter in a positive light. But it seems very petty to me, that a former vice president his family would say no, or I don't know if it was a actual request from Dick Cheney before he passed, or if this is all his family. I'm assuming it was something he put in there that he didn't want Trump or his vice president there. It just seems awfully petty because, again, despite how we feel about Dick Cheney, the person, a man who served the country, lost his life, who served as vice president, historically, the current president and the current vice president would be at that funeral. They're not going to be because they weren't invited. What's your take? I mean, because I think that's just silly.
Well, I'm a little torn on this one, be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I agree with you for the most part. Part of being the president or the vice president of this country, it's above and beyond the actual person. It's the office itself that you're honoring when it comes to funerals, state funerals. The war between the Cheneys and specifically Donald Trump had become so nasty. I don't know that it would have made any sense for the president or anyone in his administration or his family to actually attend this. Yeah. I think it would just been a distraction. I'm with you. I'm not a fan of Dick Cheney at all. I probably, if I was Donald Trump, I probably wouldn't have sent anyone. And maybe the Cheneys knew that he wouldn't send anyone. I'm okay in this particular instance because it was such a nasty exchange, a historical exchange between the Cheneys and the Trumps. And of course, honestly, the Bushes and the Trumps, to be honest with you, it dates back to that. So I think the more interesting thing will be when Bush or Trump pass away. I think that's when they have to swallow their pride and attend whichever one goes first. The other one has to attend.
I think them not inviting Trump made more sense to me than them not inviting J.D. Vance. That just kind of, I think that's where I took it to. This feels
well. That is absolutely true. You're right about that because there was nothing personal between J.D. Vance and the Cheneys. That was all Trump and the Cheneys. So I agree with you on that one. Yeah. They certainly should have invited J.D. Vance. But again, maybe it would have been a situation where Trump said, I don't want you to go. And J.D. Vance probably would have listened to him.
Yeah. I could see Vance. I could have seen Vance going and being the representative. I agree with you on the sense, I don't know that Donald Trump would have gone if he had been invited. Yeah. Just because, quite frankly, I'm not sure that Dick Cheney's daughter would be civil if she saw Trump, even at her father's funeral. So it's probably a good call that he's not at that particular funeral. But at the same time, I don't understand. That's where I view it as petty when you say Trump and Vance can't come. Right. That just seems.
I agree with you. I think the J.D. Vance thing, it was probably that he probably should have been invited, and it would have been interesting to see if he went. Actually,
maybe it goes back to that whole Bush family wanting to control whoever the next GOP nominee is. Yeah. They don't want to give J.D. Vance any more of a spotlight than they have to. Next question, and this is a more fun one. You used to host a show called Gym Walking as part of the Laurel Leader Calls YouTube page. You put it on your website as well. Great segment. You know my opinion of you bringing it back. I want to see it. But here's my question is, if you were to bring that back today, do you think the questions you would receive, do you think the answers you'd get back, do you think they'd be dumber than what some of the answers got before? Or
I don't know. They were.
You think there's been an improvement in intelligence in the area?
For those of you who don't know what gym walking is, it was a question and answer thing. And I'd ask the dumbest questions in the history of politics or just culture or whatever. And because I had a microphone in my hand, and I looked like a reporter, people took these questions very seriously, no matter what I asked. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. One of them I remember asking was, there's a new drug called H2O out there, and everybody seems to be doing it. everybody answered, no matter what I asked them. It could be the silliest question ever. They all answered it not everyone, but 90% of the people answered it very seriously. And I think it was a great social experiment, because I think people heard what they wanted to hear in some cases. And because I was holding a microphone, they just assumed it was a serious question. Yeah. So I think it would go about the same, to be honest with you, Jack, because I think people haven't changed that much. That was only probably 15 years ago, maybe I was doing that. And I think people probably would answer just as stupidly as they did back then.
You know, I've gone down the rabbit hole of watching several of those videos, and they are hilarious, but some of them are kind of sad too, because you'll watch people and be like, really, you didn't pick up on the fact that was a completely bogus question. It was fun to watch. It was a social experiment. And every now and then, I'm sure you had a couple that didn't make the film roll that were like, did he really just ask me?
Literally, we tried to put everybody on there. And there was some people that got the joke immediately, but not very many. I think that was the most surprising thing, was how few people actually realized that the dumbest things that were coming out of my mouth weren't serious. I mean, but I'd say seriously, maybe 10%. And we did try to put them on there so people realized that we weren't just picking and choosing.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things that I know. One of the things that I saw you ask, where you would ask a serious question, I think you would ask folks, do you know who the current vice president is? And shocking people that couldn't say at that time, you know. And
yeah, we played another game after Jim walk-in that was called Guess What's in Jim's Pocket, where we just asked the most remedial questions I could possibly come up with, like who was the first president of the United States, just the easiest questions you possibly think of, like the literally first grade questions. And it's frightening. It's frightening how many people could not answer those questions.
And these are people that can vote.
And I think, not only could vote, but I think this is part of our problem in America today, is people are so uneducated, especially when it comes to history and politics and civics, that they don't know any better. I think this is why people, I mean, going back to the Mamdani thing, I think this is why people are voting for a socialist. They don't know that it's a disaster waiting to happen, because they're not taught it. Yeah,
they just hear free, and they're on board. So I think you're 100% accurate, which again gives credence to why I think Jim Watkins should come back.
If you're willing to produce it, Jack, I'm willing to do it.
We've got ideas. We'll talk after the show. What do you think is going to happen in this healthcare battle? Because, you know, some of the Obama care issues are going to expire soon. And that's going to lead to discussions there in Congress about what to do next. When you and I both know the best answer is get government out of the equation altogether, because it was better before they got involved in the first place. But I don't think that's going to be what happens. I don't think that's going to be what you believe happens. I think the Republicans are going to try to put forth their plan. The Democrats are going to try to put forth their plan. Both are going to still involve government being involved where it shouldn't be. What do you think is going to what are your expectations of the upcoming healthcare battle?
This one's a little above my pay grade, but I'll say this. I think that I like Trump's idea of sending us the money that they're currently sending the insurance companies for Obamacare. Send it to the people. Yeah. Let us, I mean, the best case scenario is go ahead with the free market and let us pay for our own insurance, but give us the money that you're taking out of our paychecks anyway. So we can buy the best policy for us. The Obama thing was a scam from the get-go. You know, we're allowed to keep our own doctors and it's going to be cheaper and all bogus. Yeah. And the fact that the Democrats are trying to put this healthcare crisis and this shutdown because Republicans aren't going to do the right thing by healthcare, and healthcare is too expensive. Healthcare is too expensive because of Democrats. It's too expensive because of Obama. And again, if we had a good media, a fair media, they would tell the people that, but that's not what's happened here. How they're going to solve it, I'm with you 100%. Republicans will put out a plan. Democrats will put out a plan. They won't agree on anything. We'll come up with some other disaster on healthcare is how I think it'll happen.
Well, Jim, we've got probably about 4 minutes left. Now, I told you the last question was going to be something a little bit more focused in our area and a little bit more fun. Where's Lane Kiffin going to coach next year?
I'm an Ole Miss fan. I sent 2 daughters to Ole Miss, and this one pains me. I don't think Lane Kiffin's the greatest on-field coach in the world. What I think he is, though, is a great recruiter, and he's great at the new system of college football where you basically buy players. And he brings a lot of savvy to that and just a reputation, so he can get players that Ole Miss normally wouldn't be able to get. Yeah. So Ole Miss will take a huge hit without Lane Kiffin, and of course he's got him on a path to the playoffs this year. I am hoping, and it's probably not logical and it's probably never going to happen, but I'm hoping that his family loves Oxford so much that he stays. If I had to put money on it, I think he's going to Florida.
I think he's going to Florida. Kiffin seems like a perfect fit there in Oxford, and I said on my show to end it last night that I think that if Lane Kiffin was listening, and I'm not an Ole Miss fan. You know that. You and I go back and forth sometimes about Ole Miss, but I do think that's where he should stay. Florida has been a train wreck for a long time. So that's why I wouldn't even consider Florida. LSU, they fired 2 national championship coaches. They fired Les Miles after he won a national championship. They fired Ed Ogeron after he had won a national championship. So there's a possibility. There's not the job security at either one of those 2 places. But at Ole Miss, they're going to build a statue for you if you stay.
I agree with you 100%, and I think the correct move would be to stay to Ole Miss. But I go back to I'm a Cardinal fan, as you know. I don't hold that against you. I go back to Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols for the Cardinals was a legend, and I know he was still alive, but he's still a legend. Talk about having someone that would have had a statue built outside of that stadium.
Still might. And
he might still have it, but this is a man who decided to leave the Cardinals for the Angels for a tiny percentage more money than he was already getting. He already had more money than he possibly could spend his entire life. And instead of sticking with a team where he was basically Stan Musial all over again, he decided to take the little bit of extra money. And I feel like Lane Kiffin's going to do the same thing.
I hope not, because I think Lane's good for our state. I think he's definitely good for Ole Miss. I'm hoping he sticks around. I say it's 50-50 right now, but I think if he does take a job, I don't think it's going to be Florida. I think it's going to be Baton Rouge.
I think it's going to be the highest bidder.
So, and Ole Miss has said they'll match. So we'll see if that's true.
If Ole Miss matches, then he should stay, no doubt.
But you brought up Albert Pujols. He came back for his final year.
Final year, yep.
And he was able to miraculously, because nobody thought he was going to get there, but he was able to get to 600. Was it 600 or 700 home runs he reached?
Heck, I don't remember now.
It was awesome milestone.
Awesome milestone. And he actually had a very good last year, which was surprising because no one expected it. But he never should have left. And I think Albert now will tell you he shouldn't have left.
Maybe Lane Kiffin should call Albert.
If you can make that happen, you're getting a raise.
Because I think Albert regrets leaving. Because I think when he came, I think he regretted it anyway. But I think when he came back and was embraced by those same fans that used to cheer him, I think he realized what he gave up for so long. And I guarantee you he wishes he had more than one more season with them.
Yeah. So. And the Cardinals actually did better than the Angels after Albert left. So
they won another World Series.
He has to regret that as well.
Absolutely. Well, look, as much as I dislike your St. Louis Cardinals, I do admit that they're an outstanding franchise. And if I were blessed to be talented enough to play and was a part of that organization, outside of maybe going to a team that I grew up as a fan of, I couldn't see myself wanting to leave it either, especially not just for more money. It would have to be a situation of, oh, the team I grew up rooting for wants me. That would be about the only thing to make me want to leave an outstanding franchise, especially if I'm the face of that franchise. Crazy. Lane, maybe if you're watching, hopefully you're hearing us.
Take our advice. Stay at Ole Miss.
Stay at Ole Miss. Get the statue built up.
And that's where Chris McDaniel is tonight, right?
Yep, he is there. Maybe Chris, after he gets done meeting with the conservative coalition up there, maybe he's going to go have a sit-down chat.
What a full circle moment that was. We turn it right back to Chris McDaniel being at Ole Miss.
Exactly. So make sure if you're in the area, you can go check him out. Part of the reason why we recorded the show early, we wanted to make sure that we were able to tell folks where Chris was speaking tonight. He should, next week, may have a canned show in for us because it's Thanksgiving. We may just not have a show next week because Thanksgiving holiday, but we've got some ideas, so stay tuned to the Facebook pages on what we could or could not do as far as next week's episode. But the week after that, we hope to have Chris back on it with us. But Jim, thank you again, and thank you for being subjecting yourself to being interviewed on this show. I think you did outstanding there.
Well, I enjoyed it, Jack. Thank you.
This has been Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home of the anti-establishment movement.
Looks like you've been sleeping well,
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
and you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.